The verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial caused reactions in every corner of the United States yesterday as the jury in Minneapolis found the former police officer guilty on all three charges. And reaction to the verdict started spreading immediately from Minneapolis to Floyd's hometown of Houston to right here in the Inland Northwest. KREM 2's Brandon T. Jones has more on the reaction from leaders here in Spokane.
It was an emotional day for our country yesterday. I think about all the protests that took place all across the country over the last year, including right here in Spokane. KREM 2 spoke with local leaders and activists in our community about how they're feeling. And one person, Frida Gandy, the executive director of the MLK Center, told us she finally feels like protests can create real change in our communities.
I think the message of enough is enough is resonating. And hopefully there is some true sustainable change that comes from it. I mean, if we all stand up and speak out, then we will see the change that we need to see.
Yesterday, KREM 2 also had the chance to speak to Anwar Peace with the Spokane Human Rights Commission. He says justice was found after the verdict, but there's still a long ways to go with police reform.
So justice in this case has been done, but justice as a whole hasn't been done yet. And until we as a community decide that we are going to strive for strict police reform and we're not going to allow the police union to control the narrative anymore, that we as a community want our community safe.
Anwar told me that he feels that this is an opportunity for the Spokane Police Department to create positive and engaging bonds with the community. And it's also worth mentioning that other activists feel like there's still a lot of work to be done, not only here in our community, but across the country. From Spokane, Brandon T. Jones, KREM 2 News.
After 3 weeks and 45 witnesses, the jury took over 10 hours over 2 days to come to the guilty verdicts. The Minnesota Attorney General reflected on what this verdict means moving forward.
I would not call today's verdict justice, however, because justice implies true restoration. But it is accountability, which is the first step towards justice.
And prosecutor Jerry Blackwell also spoke about the verdict.
Now, no verdict can bring George Perry Floyd back to us. But this verdict does give a message to his family that he was somebody, that his life mattered, that all of our lives matter.
The judge is expected to sentence Chauvin in about 8 weeks. At that time, Chauvin could choose to make a statement to the judge. The Attorney General's office will also prosecute the other 3 Minneapolis officers involved in Floyd's death. Their trials are set to begin coming up in August. Taking a look back in Washington, a bill in the state legislature right now would change policing on a statewide basis. State Representative Jesse Johnson is one of several sponsors for House Bill 1054, which includes bans on chokeholds and no-knock warrants. It would also limit the use of tear gas and military-style equipment. Now, if passed, the law would require police to limit shooting at moving vehicles. Representative Johnson says there wouldn't be a call for change without George Floyd.
Do you think that if George Floyd did not happen, that these reforms would be happening in Washington today?
I would probably have to say probably not. And I say that because it's just something we haven't seen, to see that egregious act that we all saw on videotape.
State lawmakers continue to share their responses to the verdict. And that includes Representative John Lovick, who was the only black state representative when he was first elected back in 1998 in Olympia. He says he's proud to be one of 9 black legislators today.
It's very, very emotional for me. I grew up in the South. I was in law enforcement. I absolutely love the profession. But I also know that it's so unfortunate that it had to take sacrificing the life of a man to really bring some truth and some justice to where we are, where we need to be.
He also says the death of George Floyd in Minnesota helped steer lawmakers here in Washington state. Now the state government is working on new legislation.
We spent a lot of time this summer making phone calls around the country, trying to do things that we could do to try and like I've said before, reimagine policing. What can we do to bring the community together? What can we do to make sure that those who do not trust the system will trust it now? And maybe we are going to get there with some of the legislation we're working on and with this verdict.
Legal experts are also weighing in on the case and the verdict, including Mary Phan, a professor of law at the University of Washington. Phan has a background in criminal law, and she says that even though there are 3 charges, sentencing may work a little bit different in this case.
Oftentimes people will just quote the maximum sentence because it's easy to look up the statute and read the maximum sentence. But because of usually sentencing proceeds by sentencing guidelines that take into consideration what we call criminal history category, criminal history score, depends on the jurisdiction. But we basically look at past criminal history, if any, and they assign the defendant a score. And then they look at the offense level and they assign that a severity score. And then it's like a chart. And so with respect, so typically people do not get the statutory maximum. Rather, they're sentenced to what we call the applicable guidelines range under sentencing guidelines for that jurisdiction. And that's a long way of saying that the actual time, assuming no criminal history in this case for the defendant, the actual time he's likely going to face on the top charge, which will control, is about 12 and a half years.
All right, we'll continue to have complete coverage of the Chauvin case and what's happening next for the former officer, always on KREM 2 News and always on KREM.com, and that's certainly posted right now. 12:07, we're going to take a moment here, send it to Jeremy Legou, standing by in the beautiful outdoor weather center.
Yeah, Laura, I'm not coming back inside. It's too nice out here. Yeah.
Fair enough.
All right, well, that's it. That's all you need to know. It's super nice outside today, and we have temperatures already up to 60 degrees. But enjoy this while you can. It's going to be a while before we feel this kind of warm weather with this kind of sunshine in the middle part of the day, even on Friday when we catch a bit of a break in the action. Temperatures right now hovering pretty close to 60 degrees across the inland northwest. You move out into central Washington, your temperatures are in the mid-60s. 57 in Pullman, 55 there in Moscow. And it's clear skies overhead taking us through the day today. You're hard-pressed to find some clouds until tomorrow when we have a cold front moving through. And that cold front brings us our next chance of showers. It's not a great one. You might even hear a little bit of thunder as it moves through. But we're talking much more chances of rain as we head into the weekend. So for now, here's what you need to know. This afternoon, temperatures climb into the upper 60s. It's going to be a warm one. Plenty of sunshine, but clouds start building as the sun sets. And that's the first sign of our changing weather pattern. I'll have more on that coming up in your full forecast.
Jeremy, appreciate it. It is 12:08 right now, still to come right here on KREM 2 News at noon. We're taking a look at other news across the inland northwest, including 3 new vaccine clinics that are now open here in town. We'll tell you how you can get your own appointment. Very easy. We have a link for you. That's